we're live with the live preview show. A muted start as I am joined by Stephen.
What's happening? Good morning, everyone.
And Martin Melly. Oh, kicked
Yes.
my camera there. You guys might not be up for this. You guys might not be looking forward to this game. You think there may be nothing for us to win in this game. But I read midweek that Callum McGregor has said that all the focus this week has been on this game. Celtic have created 45 chances against Rangers in the past couple of games and scored only one goal. All the focus this week has been on stopping Rangers becoming invincible. Now, my question to you, Stephen, is do you care about that anymore?
Well, look, before we address my feelings on it, a snidey goal is a goal, regardless. Even if it's as snidey as trying to take away their record, it's something to fight for. I had kind of stopped caring about it. I have to admit, I'd kind of moved past that to the point where I was just like, look, even if we put in some kind of decent performance, that would be something. But now that we're sitting here, it's always very different. It's always very different when you actually sit down on the day. The blood starts going a wee bit. I care now. I care a lot more now that we're within an hour of kickoff, or within 45 minutes of kickoff, than I did yesterday. There's one, we keep saying this, right? I feel like instead of turning up today, we could have just cut together our greatest hits, put it together for some music, and just made it a clip show today that people could have watched before the game. But we've run so far out of goals to achieve this season. We've failed every single one.
Yep.
Without fail, we have failed every single one. The last one was the cup, and that's gone. The one thing remaining is to try and take away this record of theirs. And even at that, they've lost in both cups anyway, so it's not even that great a record. No. But there's that one tiny thing in front of us. Please, just go and get it. Just go and pick it up. We're laying down the gauntlet to you, Celtic. Just go and do it.
Just beat Rangers. What's the problem I have, Melly, with this invincible treble / invincible season? Is that we live in a country where the truth doesn't really matter an awful lot. And if Rangers go this season unbeaten, if Rangers go this season unbeaten, we're just going to be hearing about the Rangers Invincibles compared to the Celtic Invincibles. And that is going to be all the chat. So for me, like Stephen said, the one thing to do this season is just delete it. Just delete all that chat with just one wee win, just one wee baby-sized win. That's all I'm asking for. Just a wee baby-sized win against Rangers. We don't need to beat them 5-0, 10-0, 7-6, 4. Just 1-0. That's all. I'll take it. And then that ends all that chat. Yes?
That bit where you said 1-0 is, I mean, that nil is a big
guys.
nil. No, you're right. I mean, it's one of those ones. I'm like Stephen. I woke up the day and I was like, can't really be bored of this game. Then you sit down and think about it. Do you know what? I'm into it now. I want to win this, because you always want to win it, and no matter how petty, how small it is, just that one victory. Because see, if Rangers do go invincible in the league, it kind of takes away from this league, because you're like, that's a bit crap. We wanted to do that ourselves. We wanted to be the only team that's seen that. To have them go through it is not going to be pleasant. So today is another day where Celtic have the chance to do something about it, and it's their last chance to do it. Am I confident they're going to do it? No, but I do have hope.
Jamie, I noticed you just drank multiple drinks one after the other. Is that a chaser?
Yeah, I'm having a cup of tea with a water chaser, and I'm also aware that I swallowed very loudly into my microphone, so giving some ASMR there to the listeners. Craig Murphy, Melly, says he's not seen the team sheet yet. Is Bruni starting? Over your shoulder, why don't you run through the team for us?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as we'd expect, except James Forrest is back. I think Celtic will go to a 4-2-3-1, or I'd prefer it to be a 4-3-3 with Scott Brown sitting in front of the defence and Callum McGregor and Turnbull, but who knows with Celtic. But it's the back four. John Joe Kenny is in there alongside Ayer, Welsh, and Taylor's back instead of Laxalt. Brown and McGregor in midfield, which is scary. Turnbull ahead of that with Forrest on the right, Elyounoussi on the left, and Edouard up front. No Lee Griffiths for you, Jamie.
Yeah, Lee Griffiths on the bench there, Stephen. How do you feel about the lineup? Pretty strong, probably the strongest one available. John Joe Kenny at right back is a cause for concern for all of us, obviously, but we don't really have much choice here, do we?
No, well, that is the team. That's the lineup that we've been basically forced to pick. The only really option other than what's playing just now would be Ryan Christie, maybe, but I don't have any problems with the lineup at all. A lot of people out there, and for reason, I'm not going to criticise them for this, but people are saying, look, just don't play anybody who's not going to be here next season. Rip it up, just play. But we do have certain contractual obligations to fulfill here. We need to put out 11 players, and I don't know how you do that with all the guys who are going to be away next season out of the team. I would find that virtually impossible. I think to put out, to balance the need to put out a team like that that lays down a marker for next season and also can get some kind of result. So it's fine. It's fine to put out the quote strongest team. I totally understand. There are no surprises there for me at all. I think that's the team that I would have gone for. Once it started becoming apparent during the week that Forrest had trained all week, I fully expected them to play, and that's that exact team I would have expected. Of course, there is always the dilemma whether to play Laxalt or Taylor, but after Laxalt's last couple of performances, that is no longer a debate for me. I think you'd basically just stick with Taylor now.
Melly, is there any changes you would have rang to that team, or are you quite happy?
I was kind of thinking that John Kennedy might go full Brendan Rodgers and have Ayer at right back, Beaton in the centre, and sort of go Ayer in that Lustig role because Forrest ahead of him, he's an out-and-out winger, but it would have maybe given us a bit of stability at the back as well for set pieces. But at the same time, Beaton or John Joe Kenny, it's not exactly a great choice to have, is it?
No, Stephen, did you hear that? Have you had the chance, Stephen, yet to listen to the Boys Analytics podcast Lenedy, or the Kennedy v Lennon one yet?
Yes, I did, yeah.
There was some frightening stats about John Joe Kenny's contribution to the Celtic team there. Melly, what was that amazing stat that was revealed at the end of that podcast? Spoilers for anyone who hasn't heard it. But Boys Analytics, we had a tremendous podcast about whether or not there's actually been any improvement under Celtic, or with Celtic under John Kennedy. But what was that stat? Remind me again, Melly, of John Joe Kenny's contribution.
I think it's the 17th of February. It was the last time he went past a player with the ball. That's hard. Absolutely incredible. John Joe, was it not Lennon's last game in charge or something? Was the last time John Joe Kenny beat a man with the ball? Stephen, one of the issues we saw from John Joe Kenny in the last game was just that, his reluctance to take on a man, what we would call shite baggery of the highest order, repeatedly passing the burden of the ball onto Stephen Welsh, just turning inside and getting rid of it. If Celtic are going to get any sort of result in a game against what is, let's be honest, a very good Rangers team, we just have to admit that now, we need to be brave. We need to be brave on the ball.
We are Celtic fans. By and large, we are forgiving of players who have one or two glaring deficiencies in their game, as long as they've got something else you can turn to. Like Frimpong, I mean, towards the end, everyone get kind of fed up with that because of the way the season was going, and turned on Frimpong a little bit. But we were always harping on about how he didn't have a final ball until. Do you remember it was like his debut in Germany? He pinged in this cracking cross and somebody just nodded it in on the goal line, which made everybody go, "Oh, the coaching's pish in this club." You don't learn how to cross the ball in a week in Germany. But look, the point I'm making is that John Joe Kenny would be fine. He'd be fine if he had something. If there was one attribute you could turn to and go, "Yeah, right, he can't go past a player. He's not very good going forward. But what a defender he is."
Yeah.
Oh, by Christ, he gets results when it comes to going back the way. But there's absolutely nothing there. But we've spoken about this so many times. The idea that Celtic have turned up to this season with absolutely no attack, no threat from fullbacks is absolutely criminal. Well, Frimpong's already gone, of course, but the idea we've got nothing coming from the fullback areas is astonishing to me. It's no coincidence to me that the big clubs these days go out and spend heavily on their fullbacks. What did Pep Guardiola gets criticised a lot for it, for spending fortunes and fortunes on fullbacks. But he obviously knows something that Celtic don't, because that is an absolutely key position in modern football. It's only going to get more and more important.
But every time we get a fullback, right? So we've sold 2 fullbacks for big money recently. Celtic must be sitting there going, these fucking fullbacks are going for hotcakes. Jesus Christ, they're flying out the door. They're absolutely flying out. Nobody's once went, are we missing do we need fullbacks? Nah, just keep fucking selling them. Have you seen that Mitchell and Webb sketch with the farmer?
Aye.
He's like that. Sheep, they have wool on their back. You shave it off, sell it, and you get more. That's how we're treating our fullbacks.
These things are made of chicken.
Aye, these things are fucking made of chicken. You get cash for it, and that's how we're treating our fullbacks. The most crucial part of the team, we're just selling them for money and replacing them with players who can't do the same job.
No, I know. It's terrible. I mean, it's too late to do anything about it now. There's only a couple of games left. And sadly, God, there's only 3 preview shows left.
Yeah.
Believe us, though, we are in talks. We are in crunch talks as to how we can continue to deliver red hot preview content next season.
Here's
Don't
the
worry
crunch
about
talks.
it, folks.
Aye, it's not going anywhere. The preview show's staying. That's my promise to you. That's all we ask for. Melly, bravery on the ball. It's going to be key today, isn't it? Not just from John Joe Kenny, but from other players. We need discipline from Brown, bravery from our defenders. We need players to win the ball. Just let me get to a comment here, which I thought was very good. Slick Rick says, what's more realistic? We score from a set piece or we don't concede from one. John Joe Kenny's been culpable for these set pieces as well at the back, hasn't he?
He has, and that's a problem. As Stephen said, he's not good going forward, and just doing the simple things at the back, he's not good at either. So, I think it would be us us scoring would be more unlikely. I think from a set piece, that is very unlikely. But with Celtic, we're sick and tired of saying it. You have to turn up now. There's no more chances after this. You're going to rely on other people if Celtic don't win today. So this is our last chance to turn up and have that performance that we've all been waiting on this season. Is it likely to turn up and happen at the start of May? Probably not. But the players out there, they owe us one. They really do owe us one. And it's not often you can say that about teams and go, look, they owe us one. But they definitely do, because they've been terrible all season. And as you say, Cal McGregor spoke about it this week.
Yeah,
so it's not us just talking about it, it's the players as well.
No, Cal McGregor did. He said in his, I think it was an interview with the Scotsman, he said, all the usual stuff, you don't become bad players overnight. We still got a lot to prove. We've got to refresh ourselves, and all this stuff we've been hearing basically since Lennon left. It wasn't really insightful, but it was interesting to me to see that within the Celtic camp, they do want to stop Rangers going invincible. So David Thompson says he's encouraged by the bench. We forgot to mention the subs today. It's Barkas, Bitton, Griffiths, Ayeti, Sorrell, Christie, Johnston, Ralston and Laxalt. And immediately, Stephen, when I look at that bench, I don't know if it's just perception, but I see that bench and I'm like, okay, options. There's Griffiths, there's Ayeti, there's Sorrell, there's Christie, there's Laxalt. There's options on the bench, whereas a couple of weeks ago we were complaining that we don't really have any.
Yeah, I suppose so on paper, but the truth is that those are big names. That's it, really. Griffiths and Ayeti and Laxalt, they're all names. They're all established players in some way or another, but their contribution has been nil to this point. Well, I mean, Laxalt had a couple of good games. Ayeti has scored a few goals, a handful of goals this season. Griffiths has got maybe 4 or 5 as well. That's it. That's all really we can turn to with that. I did note with interest that there are pretty much no youngsters on the bench at all, which I found surprising. Mikey Johnston is there, right? But I mean, he's been in the first team for 3 seasons now. I don't know if we can necessarily call him like an up and coming player anymore. It's just through circumstance that he is not a fully established player by now. But I did notice that. So there was no. Everyone was shouting for Dembele as well. Let's throw Dembele in because we've got nothing left to play for this season.
He would get wee-guyed in that game like this.
I mean, almost certainly. Rangers have got a couple of changes in there as well. They're not probably full strength. Melly, now before we turned the cameras on, or rather before we went live, we were talking about how Rangers are missing 3 probably first choice or thereabouts centre halves, and yet we don't really notice that. We don't really we don't go like, oh wow, they're weak at centre half, because they still don't concede any goals despite the fact they're missing all these players. They're missing their first choice midfielder, defensive midfielder, and 3 centre halves. And yet they still don't really look any weaker. We're still going into this game thinking, oh God, imagine like we might be able to score. We might be able to score against them there, or get another centre half. So I wouldn't have picked Dembele. If I'm totally honest, I don't think it was the game for him today, and I don't think we're ever going to get that now. But options from the bench, sort of. But they're in the same boat. A lot of these players are in the same boat as or maybe even a worse boat than the guys who are starting. If we're looking at these players and saying, are they owes something for this season? What the fuck does Griffiths and Ayeti and Laxalt owe?
I mean, Ayeti has no earned his wage this season at all. Let's talk about the one guy that is back. All the talk this week has been about James Forrest. Melly, Dan Tosney says, at least Forrest will play in his position and give Barisic something to think about out wide. It's peculiar to me that there's been a bit of a clamour to get back to this formation, because the reason that we binned this formation in the first place was because we struggled so badly against Rangers playing this formation. We went to the Diamond. Now, we need to get Forrest. We need to be back to the 4-3-3. It seems to me, Melly, this change of formation, James Forrest coming, it's a bit of a Hail Mary, if I'm honest. It's one last throw of the dice. It's one last pitch to try and get something out of these fixtures for Celtic. I am not holding it much hope. Look, I said it last week on the podcast. Celtic are crap. I don't care. I really don't care what Callum McGregor or John Kennedy says or Scott Brown's legacy. I don't care about any of that. Rangers are a better team. Rangers are playing with their chest out, head high. We are playing like a spent force. And if you're
can I just say, I'm really sorry to interrupt, Jamie, but I think this needs said. Look at this. Fuck you, Celtic. Look what you've done to this.
Look what you've done to me.
Look what you've done to Jamie. He was the last guy. He's usually... We all have our wobbles during the week. We all talk about how Celtic are kind of crap. But see, as soon as we sit down in these chairs and go live with the live preview show, he's the guy, Jane, Melly and I up saying, oh, God, you're talking pish. We're Celtic. We're going to turn up. And now look at them. Look at what you've done.
Look at me. And what am I giving to console myself here? What am I being told that's going to brighten my day? James fucking Forrest. How many times has he turned up against Rangers? You're not going to sit here and tell me, Melly, that this formation with James Forrest, he's finally going to get the better of Barisic. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'd love to tell you you're wrong, but as we know, James Forrest rarely turns up against Rangers, but even more rare as he turns up at Ibrox. I can't remember him ever having a good game at Ibrox. Maybe a bit different with no fans, but at least today he does give us a bit of width, and we've severely lacked that in any game versus them this season. But if you're wanting James Forrest to come in and make a difference, aye, fine. But James Forrest, who's basically been out since September and came back, it's not as if he's flying. He's coming in, he's probably not going to last the full game, so what do? Bring on Mikey Johnson, who's barely played ever either as well, so it's a tough one. And James Forrest coming in is a bonus, but I think that takes away from the fact that I still really, really worry about Scott Brown in there. I think Rangers are strong in midfield, and they've moved Aribo back there today because Arfield's not out, and I think Scott Brown's going to overrun the day.
So just to run through the Rangers team, sorry Stephen, I'll give people the Rangers team who might not know it. It's McGregor, Tav, Barisic, Goldson, Simpson, Kamara, Davis, Aribo, Roof, Kent and Morelos in the Rangers side today.
I was just going to say, Mel makes a good point there, because James Forrest is in the team. His name is on the team sheet and crucially, is on Melly's tactics board. But what kind of James Forrest are we getting here? Is he fit, or is he Harry Kane in the Champions League final a couple of seasons ago where they just threw him in and he's a bit... Because I think he looked quite a bit off it when he came back a couple of weeks ago. It might be totally different now. It might have been a very, very mild recurrence or a slightly different injury he had. I don't think it was a recurrence actually, but what kind of nick is he in, having missed most of this season? So I think it's probably important not to just chuck all our eggs in the James Forrest basket because he's back in and he's a big game player of the past, admittedly never or very rarely against Rangers. So I don't know necessarily what we're going to get out of him today. It'll be interesting to see.
David Thompson says, I don't want to get my hopes up, only to get them crushed again, but today's the day we get a win. The starting 11 is good, however, as you say, the fullbacks would be the biggest worry. He goes on to say, I want to see Turnbull control the game today. He has the ability, but he needs to take the game by the scruff of the neck. David Turnbull, Melly, one of the nominees for Celtic's Player of the Year that we were talking about. Who are Celtic's big players today? If we're going to get a win, let's talk about David Turnbull. Let's talk about Odsonne Edouard. I said a couple of weeks ago, I even made a sales pitch for Lee Griffiths starting this game because Celtic don't have a problem creating chances. We have a problem finishing chances. And another thing Callum McGregor was talking about this interview was you need to take your chances. So who's going to be the difference for Celtic today? Let's talk a wee bit about, for David's benefit, for David Turnbull. But go on to Odsonne Edouard, please.
I think it will be that front four, because if Celtic are going to win this game, are probably going to need to score more than one goal, because we're going to concede, because we know the back door is going to be left open at some point by those Haddies back there. So I think you need to rely on maybe Odsonne Edouard and Moel Yunusi. I think these guys have scored in these games before, and when you're thinking about Celtic getting the result, you can sort of picture them scoring, whereas can I picture James Forrest or David Turnbull scoring in this game? No. Turnbull, maybe it's a bit unfair because he's not had many of these games, but Forrest had plenty in his career. Turnbull, a good player, but in these games I want to see more from him. I don't want to just see set piece deliveries. I want to see him just take the game by the scruff of the neck, as David Thompson said, because we've not seen enough of that. So him, and we finally want a performance from Odsonne Edouard today.
I think one of the things that's encouraging for me, Stephen, again, been a bit negative on this one, but the terrific video from Boys Analytics on Ryan Christie and his propensity for shooting shots from outrageous angles is not something that has only been picked up by the eye test, but it's something that's now borne out in stats. And one thing that was quite striking to me was, for every shot Ryan Christie took that was never going to go in the back of the net, more often than not, there was a better option on for him. And that's for me was crucial. It wasn't just him bloating the ball for 30 yards. It was missing key passes, missing players in space that could give us a better opportunity to score. So without Ryan Christie on the pitch today, I think our chances of scoring have increased.
Yeah, you might be right. On that video, I agree with everything you've just said there about Ryan Christie and about how he might lessen Celtic's chances of scoring. But that video was just ludicrous. I mean, if you've not seen it, please do seek it out. It's out all there on Twitter at Boys Analytics. But I saw some people watch that and said, like, you know how it froze and then showed some arrows going off to his various options, his various better options than shooting. I saw someone, and I don't like to single people out. I can't remember the name, but it's like
you do.
But I can't remember who said this. But it was like, wait, but you need to remember he's playing in real time, so he's not going to see all these options. And I'm like, he's a midfielder.
That's football.
That's his job.
That's football.
That's the point. Some of those shots were absolutely outrageous. It was like the opposite. It was like the mirror opposite of one of these like YouTube highlight reels that you see where every player looks absolutely brilliant in it. There was one years ago after Thomas Gravesen played against Copenhagen in the Champions League all those years ago, and somebody had cut it together to make it look as if he'd been absolutely amazing. He'd absolutely bossed it. It was every run, every powerful run he'd made, and every shot pass, and he's tremendous. But that Christie video was like the exact opposite, to the point where I thought, is this real? Is this unfair? Has this been like the editors of Big Brother? They've cut it together to make him look really bad or something like that.
It was the arrows, Melly, wasn't it? It was the arrows to the better options that did it for me. There was so many, and there was a couple in previous Rangers games as well.
Yeah, there's a couple you think, maybe that's not the best option. But he had two more options as well, and it's every single time. It's a thing with Celtic where we just get into that final third and it's panic. That's not what Celtic used to be about. Under Brendan Rodgers, it was methodical, whereas maybe we're trying to see a wee bit more of that with John Kennedy. I think under Len, it was a bit of that chaos factor, and I think Kennedy's trying to go away from that. But at the same time, you're looking at Ryan Christie going, like, that's mental, mate. Like, that is absolutely scandalous, some of the shots. And look, he's got better options there. But when it stops and you see the options, you go, he should have done that, should have done that. But it's the shot after it. It's not even on target 99% of the time.
Seeing it on a serious note on that thing, on what I've just said about his decision making as well, I once heard, this was years ago now, but I once heard a brilliant description of Kevin De Bruyne, and I don't want to make that comparison because the dogs would be ludicrous, right? But
Sure don't.
I once heard a brilliant description of him in a game that said he plays like he's got someone at the top of the stand feeding him information with an earpiece. He seems to see the pitch from above it. He can see all the options and all the angles closing and all that. It's like Ryan Christie is the opposite. It's as if he's got blinkers on, like a horse, and he can only see the goal. And
he's got a guy in the stand and that guy's just shouting, "Shit!
Shit! Just
fucking shit!"
There's nobody on. There's nobody on, mate.
That's what Ryan Christie's guy in the guy in the stadium telling.
Or Neil Lennon.
His guy was Neil Lennon. Joe Lappin has £1,700 riding on Celtic now. Look, Joe, I really hope what you
pubs are back open this weekend, guys.
Yeah, I really hope what you mean, Joe, is that you've maybe put a fiver on a ludicrous bet, and if that comes in, £1,700 is coming your way. I sincerely hope you've not taken £1,700 of your own money and put that on Celtic, because you can, if you wanted to, subscribe to our Patreon. For £1,700, just donate it to us. Plexiplox, did starting Brown and his apparent lack of mobility make easy planning in the middle for Rangers? No more Brown on Ryan Kent, please, Melly. Well, Ryan Kent's not playing, is he? So we won't have that again.
He is.
Oh, is he? Okay, so no more Brown on Ryan Kent, Melly.
No, and Ryan Kent comes inside, and so did Aribo in the last game, and that's where Rangers got a lot of joy. They're going a bit different today. I think Kent might play on the right and Roof on the left, will depending, but I think they'll be more forward thinking. But the problem is Rangers play the 3 in midfield, where Celtic play the 2 and the 1, and I just worry about Scott Brown. We've seen it so many times this season. He's just not got the legs anymore. Rangers in midfield, for all their faults, they do have effective players against Celtic. And look, I've said it Monday, I still think it's either going to go one way or the other for Scott Brown. There's going to be no in between. He's going to get his final victory at Ibrox, or it's going to be a complete disaster. Zidane in the World Cup final just sent off.
What Steven Gerrard against Man U, as Stephen said, one of those ones. I get the feeling there probably will be a red card today. It'll be interesting to see how much Rangers are up for this, because they've, as much as, I mean, we've not really caused them that many problems this season. Just before we go though, Stephen, as we approach, I want to spend some time talking about Odsonne Edouard. I sort of touched on it briefly with Melly. I want to give you some time to talk about Odsonne Edouard. Usual story, blah, 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 Oz has won, blah, 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 one performance, all that sort of carry on. But, you know, there's almost no excuse for Odsonne Edouard, because we have created some good chances for him, particularly in the last game. He had the penalty. He really needs to buck up his ideas a wee bit and do things more for the team and maybe not just for Odsonne.
Yeah, well, regardless, whatever his motivations are, even if it's for Odsonne Edouard, that doesn't matter. Turn in a performance anyway. Let's see if he wants to go out there and play and score a hat-trick for Odsonne Edouard. Great. I'm all for it. That's fine. That's yours. You can keep that odds on. But please turn up today, because we desperately, desperately need it. I have sympathies with him to an extent that this season just isn't what he would have wanted it to go. And he wanted out ages ago, and he probably feels like he's just been forced to stay here against his will and play in this absolute nightmare. Fine, but that's gone now. That's gone. Like, we've established this long ago. The only thing that's left now is standing there in front of Rangers and choosing whether you want to play or not. And I don't want to get too bogged down in the doesn't look interested thing, but what would go a long way to dispelling that, whether it's a myth or not, dispelling that, is to turn up and actually play and actually just look like you really want to win this game. And that goes for everybody. That I don't want to just single out Odsonne Edouard for that, because God knows the team has looked fairly dispassionate and fairly off it for ages. So Odsonne Edouard's no different. The only reason, as I've said before on previous preview shows that we've done, the only reason we focus so much on him is because the expectation level with him is the expectation level is so much higher with him, because we know how good a player he is, and we're just not seeing it. He's been decent this season. I'm not buying fully into the he's got 20 goals thing. Yes, he has, but he could have probably had 30 had he been the guy we know he can be. So one final game. Who cares about the other two? Let's face it. Who cares about the other two games? Just turn up today and you can take the other two off for all I care. Just turn up today, get us a goal. This is
it, Melly. This is the last roll of the dice for Celtic, isn't it? The last. Odsonne Edouard, Christopher Ayer, Elyounoussi, Scott Brown, maybe one or two others. These guys, this is their last appearance in a big game in a Celtic shirt. And
last chance saloon, and we're doing it, lads. I can feel it. You're getting more confident as we're going.
No, I refuse.
I'm trying to convince myself here just to be let down that one last time by Celtic. Every single time we do this, but we're due one, but when do you ever get one in May? When do you ever get one in May? It's getting ridiculous now to think that, do you know what, this team might just turn up. This team is what it is, and you've said it, they're crap. But we've seen it from Odsonne Edouard, we've seen it from Elyounoussi, McGregor. They can play better than they've shown, so that's what we need to see today.
See if the narrative about this game then becomes, see if Celtic were to win this game, right? They were to win this game and break that record of theirs. And the chat is that, Rangers have already won the league anyway, so they didn't really want to win the game. I could not give a solitary shit about the narrative becoming that. We'll worry about that tomorrow, right? I don't care if anyone thinks, but it's a meaningless game. Who gives a shit? If it's a meaningless game, go and win it anyway. And we'll worry about the fallout later. Just go and take that O away. The O has got to go.
I have I'm going to struggle to watch the game today, I'll be honest with you, for more reasons than you might think, because one of Scotland's other top podcasters decided to go home yesterday with my television remote control. I don't know why he did that. I will not name any names. So I'm going to have to figure out how to work my TV without that. That's going to be a pain in the
James
arse.
English.
James English was up at the gaff yesterday, and they took my television remote control over.
It was Slaney. That seems like the kind of antics, the kind of zany antics he would get up to.
Another reason I'm going to struggle to watch this game is because, this is the first time in a long time all hope has been crushed for me. I think Rangers are just going to breeze it today. I think predictions for me as we approach kick-off, I'm with Ian Smith, 2-0 Rangers. I think that's what we're looking at. Stephen?
Celtic.
Look what you've done to me. Look what you've done to me.
Celtic. Goodness sake. Look where we are. How the mighty... It makes me sick, motherfucker, how far we done failed.
Yes.
Right. Prediction... Who gives a shit? I need to go for it. I need to be confident. Even if I'm not, I need to pretend I am. So I'm going to go with Celtic 2, Rangers 1. No danger of a clean sheet. That's never happening. No. So we will concede, but Celtic will win 2-1. And the trophy will book a bus, drive a bit the Gorbals with that 0 of theirs.
Yes.
We took it off them. We took their 0 away. And again, all that's left to do is just to try and be confident one last time. 2-1.
2-1. Melee. Prediction.
I'm more on your side, Jamie. I think Celtic, looking in past history, and if the shoe was on the other foot or the brogue was on the other foot, as I always say, you'd expect Celtic to go out and pump Rangers today. And that's the one thing we've not had this season, an absolute pumping. And that's what I want, not to get pumped today. So I'll be generous, very generous, and go 1 each. And that is generous as I can.
Well, here we go. Dan Tosney, just to sign us off, has said the win rate versus Rangers with Forrest is 74%. The win rate without James Forrest is 18%.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
So Forrest looks like he could be a key addition to the squad here. Melly, who's on the reaction with you?
Tomo.
Didn't
want to take any chances with Ryan.
You don't want to take any chances. Look, if Celtic win this, I might come on the reaction pod with you. Can't guarantee it, but the way I feel about this game, I really don't think that's going to happen. Listen, thank you so much to everyone who joined us on the live preview show. Stephen, would you like to say bye-bye?
Cheers, folks. And for one last time, not the last preview show, but for one last year, we can all agree, big game. Good luck. Yes. Enjoy the game, quote, and all that. And let's hope one last time we can do it.
Melly, would you like to say goodbye? The game's on Sky, isn't it? It's Sky.
Yes.
Melly, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye and good luck.